So, what if an AI just found a critical vulnerability in every single major operating system on the planet, all at once? Suddenly, the next global conflict isn't going to be fought with missiles, but with autonomous agents, a war of code. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's the new reality of the AI arms race, and it's being sparked by the very models we're racing to build. Let's dive in. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to unpack the hidden story behind this whole AI investment boom. We'll start with something called the AI procrustion bed. Then we'll tackle the black swan problem that almost everyone is ignoring. After that, we'll uncover the real arms race that's happening behind the scenes. And finally, we'll look at how you can actually invest in something called anti-fragility. So first up, how is the market actually thinking about AI right now? Well, honestly, it's a classic case of what the author Nassim Taleb calls a procrustion bed. We're taking this incredibly complex, messy new world and forcing it into a dangerously simple story. So what exactly is a procrustion bed? It's basically when we take something new and scary and we squeeze it into a nice, neat, simple box. And right now, the market's box for AI is all about two things: chips and chatbots. And that gives us this false sense of security, right? It makes us think we know what's going on, when in reality, we're missing the most important part of the picture. And you don't have to look any further than NVIDIA to see this in action. I mean, at its peak, the company hit a valuation of $3.34 trillion. That just shows you how laser-focused the market is on the hardware, the stuff fueling the revolution. The whole story has been boiled down to the company selling the picks and shovels. And this laser focus has led to some pretty extreme concentration in the market. The top 10 companies, and yep, almost all of them are huge AI players, now make up a whopping 40% of the entire S&P 500. So what you get is this illusion of stability, but it's an illusion that's built on a very narrow and maybe even a pretty fragile foundation. And when you look closer, you start to see the fragile economics holding it all up. We're seeing these weird circular financing loops. You have giants like Microsoft and Amazon investing billions into startups like Anthropic, who then turn right around and use that same money to buy cloud services from, you guessed it, Microsoft and Amazon. So the big players are basically paying their own customers to buy their products, just propping up the whole space. Okay, so that brings us to our second, and honestly, maybe the most crucial point: the black swan problem. See, to really get the risks and opportunities here, we have to move beyond the headlines. We have to ask the question that legendary investors like Buffett and Munger always ask: and then what? Right now, every conversation, every news article, every single investor pitch, it's all focused on one question: what can AI build? Generative models, cool new apps, autonomous agents. It's all about offense, offense, offense. But that's only half the story. The truly critical question, the one that really matters, is, and then what? What are the consequences of building all this stuff? What happens when you have millions of autonomous AI agents plugged into our most critical business systems? That's where the real risk and the really interesting opportunity is hiding. We're building a system that is just wide open to what Nassim Taleb calls a black swan event, something totally unpredictable that has a massive impact. And we're not talking about some far-off sci-fi threat. Imagine a model from a company like Anthropic being told not to write a poem, but to find security flaws. The goal isn't to predict the exact attack. It's just to recognize how fragile the whole system is becoming. And this is creating a massive brand new attack surface. You've got shadow AI, which is just employees using AI tools without permission. You've got data poisoning, where bad actors can actually corrupt the data that these models are learning from. You've got prompt injection to trick agents into ignoring their own safety rules. We're literally connecting these autonomous AIs to the heart of our businesses, and in the process, we're opening up thousands of new doors for attackers to just walk right through. There's this powerful line from one of our sources that just nails it. We build these super complex digital systems, and we tell ourselves they're foolproof, just like we believe the Titanic was unsinkable. But every hacker knows the truth. No system is perfect. Every single fortress has weakness, and AI is becoming the ultimate key to finding it. So this is where the whole story pivots. The next and most critical phase of this AI revolution is not going to be about offense and generation. The real arms race, the one some people are calling Project Glasswing, is all about building an anti-fragile defense.
Think of it like two sides of the same AI coin. On one side, you've got AI offense. That's all the stuff that gets the headlines. Chatbots, content creation, you know the drill. But the other side, the side that's not talked about nearly enough, is AI defense. And this is the world of companies like CrowdStrike and Palo Alto Networks. Companies in a dead sprint to secure our infrastructure, monitor these new agents, and make sure our data's safe.
So what in the world does anti-fragile even mean? It's a pretty cool concept. It's basically the exact opposite of fragile. Instead of breaking when it's under pressure, an anti-fragile system actually gets stronger from shocks and attacks. It learns, it adapts, it evolves with every single challenge it faces. It literally uses AI to fight AI.
And the scale of what we need to protect, it's just mind-boggling. By 2030, we are looking at a global investment of $6.7 trillion just for the data centers to power all this AI. That is one enormous centralized target that absolutely has to be protected. And here's the wild part. All this investment is happening even though there's this gigantic gap between spending and actual revenue. I mean, by 2026, projections show we'll have spent over $2.5 trillion on AI, but it will only be generating about $100 billion in enterprise revenue. And that economic fragility makes those foundational must-have services, like cybersecurity, even more critical to make sure any of this investment actually pays off. Okay, so what does this all mean for an investor? How can you act on this? Well, it means we need to completely rethink that old picks and shovels analogy. The most critical tools for this gold rush aren't just the chips, they're the defensive software platforms that allow this entire ecosystem to even exist without collapsing.
But here's something you really need to hear. It's kind of a brutal truth for most retail investors. If you own one of those popular AI ETFs, you probably have close to zero exposure to this critical defensive layer. You're almost entirely invested on the offensive side of this arms race. Just take a look at a typical AI fund. What do you see? Massive weightings in NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, the big hardware and cloud giants. But now, look for the dedicated cybersecurity software firms, the defenders, the CrowdStrikes or the Palo Alto Networks of the world. Their allocation is usually less than 1%. You are not diversified into the defensive side of AI at all. Now, everyone loves to compare this moment to the dot-com bubble. And sure, today's giants are cash-rich, they're not shaky startups, but the core lesson still holds. During that crazy gold rush, one of the biggest long-term winners wasn't a search engine. It was Cisco, the company providing the essential plumbing. The picks and shovels idea still works, it's just that the tools have changed. So this gives us a totally new framework for thinking about this. Step 1, acknowledge the massive hardware build-out is happening. Step 2, identify the real bottlenecks, which are power and security. Step 3, focus on the companies that are indispensable enablers for those bottlenecks. And finally, step 4, prioritize the companies that are building these anti-fragile defensive systems. So the big takeaway here is that we probably need to update our thinking. The real picks and shovels play for this next huge phase of AI, it might not be the chip makers anymore. It's way more likely to be the indispensable guardians, the cybersecurity firms that protect this entire ecosystem and allow it to function safely. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. As we race headfirst into a world run by autonomous agents, who do you think the biggest long-term winners are going to be? The companies building all the agents? Or the companies that become the trusted guardians of them all?